Everyone, please silence your phones for the duration of the meeting. Welcome to the June 24th, 2024 meeting of the Tampa Historic Streetcar Board of Directors. My name is Michael English. I'm the president and chair of the board. This meeting is format is hybrid. Quorum is physically present at the Hart Administrative Offices at 1201 East 7th Avenue Boardroom, and the rest of the board members are participating via communication media technology. I'd like to call the meeting to order and have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start today by welcoming our newest board member, Brandon Campbell, from the city of Tampa. He is the Director of Transportation Services at the city, where he oversees 2 of the 5 divisions of the city's mobility department. He leads a team of approximately 100 engineers and technicians, which is a lot of people, Brandon, pursuing safe, context-appropriate transportation options, ranging from multimodal transportation networks to smart cities infrastructure, while directing his team through planning, design, construction, operation, and maintenance of transportation assets in pursuit of Mayor Castor's vision to transform Tampa's tomorrow. Brandon is a licensed professional engineer in both Florida and Missouri and is certified as a professional traffic operations engineer and a road safety professional. Very impressive for such a young man. He earned his BS in civil engineering and a Master of Public Affairs from the University of Missouri at Columbia. He spends his free time volunteering at his church and pursuing outdoor activities with his wife and 3 kids. Welcome, Brandon. The next item on our agenda is public input. Is there anyone signed up to speak? Seeing and hearing none, I'd like to move to the next item on our agenda, which is approval of minutes from March 26, 2024, regular meeting of the Board of Directors.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Next are presentations. Last month, staff circulated a few images of the proposed Gasworks streetcar station in lieu of a meeting which we didn't need to have. Today we have with us Mr. Kevin Jackson of Kettler, who will walk us through the proposed concept and respond to any comments from board members. This presentation can be found on page 8 of the packet. Mr. Jackson, you are recognized.
Hi, sorry, I just wanted to introduce him a little bit more. Justin Willits, Director of Planning and Scheduling for the record. We've been working, Brian Allen and myself and the project management team, planning team, on coordinating the Gasworks development, and this station is an integral part of that development. So I just wanted to kind of set the table for him to walk through these concepts. I think we're all pretty happy with how they look. And our process really is to review their plans as they develop them, and then this will eventually go to the city for permitting. And we just review it from the safety and operations side, and then the city's job is to finalize this through the permitting, and that's kind of where this lands. This is a courtesy update, and I'll hand it over to Mr.
Thank
Jackson.
you, Justin.
Thank you. So sorry, give me 1 second.
That's all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Kevin Jackson with Kettler. We're partnered with Daryl Shaw as developers of the Gasworks project. As part of the project, we are very interested in, looking forward to creating a new streetcar stop, which would be along Channelside Drive in between 2nd Avenue and 3rd Avenue. It will be adjacent to what we are currently calling our E3 parcel. I believe there's a map here in the presentation, which we'll kind of get through. But ultimately, this would be a new stop along with the new development, and will be kind of adjacent to everything that we're doing with the Gasworks project, which, as quick background, just the quick facts and figures, will be adding around 5,000 new residential units, 500,000 square feet of office space, and more than 100,000 square feet of retail space. So there'll be a lot more foot traffic, a lot more folks in the area, and obviously connection to the streetcar, and similarly, the streetcar to the development is very important to us. Okay, that will work. I tried the arrows, but I did a click. Okay. So anyway, this is a quick map of the proposed streetcar station. So we have Adamo to the south, obviously Channelside here in the middle. The existing roundabout in Ybor is the section which is currently depicted as a park. We are currently working with the city of Tampa. That is city-owned land that is going to be developed into a public park. It's just under an acre. That is adjacent to the E2 parcel. That is an existing warehouse building. That warehouse building is going to be converted into a large retail area, primarily food and beverage heavy, which will be kind of the center of the development and kind of the center of the master plan. That kind of rounds out the majority of the placemaking that we have for the project. As described, the streetcar station that we are proposing would be adjacent to our E3 block. The current design for that block is it's a 10-story mixed-use multifamily building. It has roughly 375 units and about 25,000 square feet of ground floor retail. The C2, 3, 4 parcels, similarly the E4 parcel, we currently don't have anything planned or developed on those lots. Those will come further on down the line. Currently, we're kind of finalizing all of our pre-development and looking to start construction on the E1, 2, and 3 parcels later this year. And similarly, we're kind of wrapping up some of our lease and development negotiations with the city for the park. We obviously have seen the existing streetcar stations. I'll actually go back here quickly. One other thing to note as it relates to the map and the plan. So our development straddles the Barrio Latino Historic District. E1 is wholly within the BLC. E2 is bisected right down the middle of the warehouse, and E3 is wholly outside of the district. So part of what we're doing with the architecture of the building and the design of those 3 buildings, one, they step up in scale, but there's also a transition from some of the more historic and traditional building materials to more contemporary materials as we get away from the Barrio Latino and 7th Avenue, and as we get closer to the Selman Expressway and similarly Channelside, and all the development in Channelside. So we have looked at some of the other plans and designs of the streetcar stops. We think that this is a great opportunity to introduce a new design that, again, is kind of being sympathetic to its location straddling some of the historic stops which are up near 7th Avenue to some of the other more modern stops down in Channelside and Water Street. These aren't necessarily great kind of photos. Obviously, no renderings. Those will come on here in a second, so I'm just kind of flipping through. We're not proposing to do any adjustments to any of the track. We've been told that the extent of the new streetcar station will just be the platform, the ADA platform, and the canopy itself.
Good.
I think this is the kind of the precedent image that we took and used as base design. Proposed station and plan. I'll kind of start here with the design. We have a pretty simple canopy being held up by central columns. Those columns are going to be wrapped by brick. We do have a lot of brick in the adjacent E3 project, and similarly, as we get further up into the Barrio Latino, there's plenty of brick. The canopy itself will be a metal canopy. What's currently shown in black on the top of each of those columns are lighting. That'll just give some general illumination, one to the rest of the right-of-way, but also to kind of attract and show people that it's a streetcar stop. I think this is a good representation that kind of shows that. The materiality, again, we have got the metal columns wrapped in brick. We have a wood underside. So again, just kind of relate some of the materiality with the integrated lighting above. We would have integrated plumbing that would take any water on top of the canopy and put it into the storm system. And really on either side, there's two areas where the wood is held back from the rest of the canopy, and that's really just an architectural detail, something to bring a little bit more light in. We are seeing it at night. And a kind of an axon. We do think that there are some good opportunities maybe for some additional detailing, whether we do, whether it's detailing for kind of ornamentation or if we do detailing for signage. We could integrate that onto the columns itself within the brick. We could do some sort of tiles, whether it's kind of the Ybor City tile or if there's a new Gasworks type branding that we could integrate there into the columns as well. This is just kind of a more detailed look at the lighting on top of the canopy. And then just simple integrated seating design between the columns. And that's all that I have for you. I can
That's a
answer any
lot.
questions that you may have.
Any questions from board members? Gil?
Couple questions. Good presentation, thank you very much. Is E3 built yet?
It is not. We are, yeah, we're going through permitting right now. We are anticipating starting construction on that sometime this fall, probably
Great.
September, October.
And then with regards to the stop, how big is the footprint of the stop with the ADA ramps and without the ADA ramps?
In my head,
Mine's too small to read.
it appears to be, I'm doing some quick math here, so it's going to be 65, I was going to say maybe 85 feet,
For with or without?
including the ramp. That's
Sure.
going from, on this page, from kind of the beginning of the ramp, page right, all the way to the left, on the outside of the light post here.
I can't quite tell how big the ramp is.
The ramp itself is 26 feet long.
26 feet, okay. And any idea the cost of it?
I'm sorry?
The cost of the project?
We've gotten some initial budgetary numbers from our contractor, and also we've reached out to a couple of the contractors that work with Hart for some of the other bus stops, and we've gotten proposals in roughly around the $500,000 to $600,000.
Okay, okay. Thank you, good proposal, good presentation, thank you.
You're working closely with city and Hart staff,
Yes,
and the city will take ownership of this and maintain it? Or which is the case today with all the other stops?
I would, yes, that is the current plan.
Okay. It's a cool design. Is there currently a sidewalk there?
There is currently a sidewalk there, yes. It is a standard sidewalk. The right-of-way is going to change slightly with the rest of the modifications to the infrastructure that are going
Sure.
in the channel side, but there is currently a sidewalk there.
So you're going to go ahead and build it, and Hart is going to make it a stop? Is that when it's built? I mean, there's no one there now, but what's the game plan with its operation?
I would defer it a little bit to Justin.
I mean, the plan is for, when the units come online, we'll most likely activate unless there's a desire to do so because of something other.
So you won't activate it until there's people there?
Right, unless there's something in close proximity that's
Sure.
activated. It is kind of a bit of a hole right now.
Sure.
Especially due to, with all their construction. So as soon
Yeah.
as they get, humans in proximity, we will activate it.
Yeah,
Melanie?
and just to, maybe this is the question you're about to ask, just in terms of schedule.
Yes, that would be my.
Yeah, so we anticipate roughly a 24-month schedule to build the E3 building. The E2 and E1 buildings will be slightly quicker, just because they're not the same size.
Sure.
So we really anticipate by the end of 2027 that this would be kind of open and operational. We would like to open up the E3 building concurrently with this streetcar stop.
Cool.
It would be under a separate permit because it's in the right-of-way, so we would continue to work with the folks at the city, and particularly Brandon, to make sure we have that lined up. But
Sure.
That would be the idea.
Did they answer your question, Melanie?
Chair, I rescind my request. He did answer my question. That's exactly what I was going to ask. Thank you.
I had one
Yeah,
quick
Brandon.
question. The facade of E3, on the landscape section, it shows a variable width underneath your overhang. What's the variable width?
I think it's variable only because we have some setbacks for kind of vestibules for the retail space. I want to say we have a minimum of 10 feet there.
Okay, thank you.
I can confirm that, but that's the number that's popping in my head.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much for the presentation. We'll look forward to seeing it come into being.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Our next presentation is the fiscal year 2025 Hart THS proposed budget. The presentation is uploaded to your services and also included in the packet starting at page 25. Mr. Drainville, you have the floor.
Thank you, President English, and good afternoon, board members. Today, Hart staff will present the first draft of the FY25 proposed budget, which is subject to change based on the discussions by the board. The THS board members will have other opportunities to review of the budget iterations in the upcoming months. The goal is to approve the budget at the August 27th THS board meeting. This budget reflects the true cost of the THS budget. At the same time, we do not have any confirmation of the funding subsidies for the fairs. The true cost recognizes the loss of the fair subsidy. So I'd like to invite Melanie Williams, the Hart's Director of Budget and Grants, to the podium to present.
Good afternoon, Mr. English, members of the THS Board, and Mr. Drainville. My name is Melanie Williams. I am the Director of Budgets and Grants here at Hart. This presentation is the proposed FY25 Hart and Tampa Historic Streetcar budget. This is the preliminary budget being presented to you and subject to change on discussion of the board, the City of Tampa, and the CRAs. How do you, oh, okay. Okay, yeah, sorry. So the agenda for today's presentation includes the service model, the operating statistics, the revenues and expenses for Hart related to streetcar, the THS operating budget, Hart and THS budget, the streetcar capital expenditures, and the next steps. So included in this slide is the proposed service for the FY25. This is the schedule of the hours of operation and the frequency of the streetcars. So Saturday, hours of operation went from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. to 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then on Sunday, the operation hours went from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. For FY '25, our proposed service hours is 25,141. The next slide, you'll see the operating statistics. This slide shows the proposed revenue hours, the revenue miles, ridership, average hours per day, and cost per service hour. Looking at FY '25 budget, we have this proposed revenue hours of 25,141, revenue miles, 132,829. The ridership, as you see that it, for FY '22, FY '23, and projection, it's going up slightly. In FY '25, we do project 1,595,838 for ridership. The hours, average hours per day, 68.9. Average riders per day, 4,372. The cost per service hours, 227.79, and the cost per rider, $3.59. Now, this increase is based on the operating costs, which I will discuss later in the presentation. So the next slide you see is the HART streetcar operating revenues. And you'll see the FY '23 actual, the FY '24 budget, the FY '24 projections. And just a note here, FY '23, as you see the Tampa historic streetcar, it has 0. And actually, I want to point out that it was $300,458 in revenues for the THS contributions. As we go through this budget process, we will be reviewing and analyzing all the numbers. And as a reminder, this is a preliminary budget and it is subject to change. So looking here at FY '25 budget, we have the state operating grants of $100,000. And if you see here is a variance between the FY '24 budget and the FY '25, and that's that difference of that $700,000 for the FDOT grant to subsidize the fare-free. So next line item is $200,000 we budget every year. That's for my 5307 FTA federal grant fund. Advertising, $115,000. Fair revenues for special events, we've budgeted $7,100. City of Tampa, $707,750. City of Tampa contribution from the general fund, $531,000, and the contribution for the THS is $3,047,082. With the budgeted amount of $4,787,932.
Feel free, by the way, to stop, to ask any questions as we go through here.
Okay. Good, okay. Okay, the next slide here is the streetcar operating expenses. Total operating expenses for FY '25, it's $4,787,932. And as you see, we have a comparison of FY '23 actual, the FY '24 budget, the FY '24 projection. And for FY '25, we projected for the salary and wages, $2,123,216. Fringe benefits, $582,010. And the fuel and oil, we have budgeted $8,350. As you see, I've noted here, there's nothing actual for the FY '23 actual. Once again, we'll be analyzing and making updates throughout the next presentation. And then we have for the FY '25 budget, we have the parts and supplies at $164,892. Contract services, $20,856. We budgeted for marketing and printing, $46,988. Insurance costs, $100,000. Utilities, $221,889. Other expenses, $44,441. And then we have the street overhead, HART overhead streetcar operating expenses at $1,475,290. with a total of expenses as $4,787,932.
Scott, do you want to explain that now? I mean,
Yes.
The next
The
slide.
next
okay,
slide.
all right.
So that is the $1,475,290. That is a new added cost that was not in the previous budget. And in the next slide here, you'll see the breakdown of that and how we came to that $1,475,290. Now, this new cost has been added after we analyzed and determined all the costs associated with the streetcar. And so here you'll see the departments and the cost that's allocated to streetcar. I'll go through each one of them, and then we can discuss if anyone have any questions after. Payroll, we have $10,259. Budget, $55,231. Legal, $33,609. And you see the expenses based on the number of contracts, agreements related to streetcar. HR, $101,112. Accounting is $27,742, and accounting, accounts payable, both was based on the POs and tracked and accounted for. Accounts payable, $10,629. And then the operations supervisors, it includes $121,999. And includes the shared OCC personnel for street supervision and handling radio calls. So this also includes the 2 road supervisors to support the streetcar. And we have procurement at 6% at $32,067. Safety, $199,988. IT, $242,743. And that's based on marketing and equipment support. Based on programs and equipment support, sorry. Marketing is at 20% at $69,579. Business engagement, $9,004. Board support, $20,185. We have planning, $26,909. The executive team, $144,650. Training, $108,398. We have PMO, $182,597, and then softwares and systems, $78,589. And this gives you your overhead cost of $1,475,290. So as you see, we went through each department and we allocated the time and the costs allocated to the streetcar to come up with that number.
A question, Melanie?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the breakdown. I think my question is centered on why is it broken out to this year in relationship to the previous years? So I'm not sure, I'm not debating your breakdown and how you got to the number, just understanding the philosophy or the change in how it's reported.
If I may, I can answer that. So with the dire financial strain that Hart's in, I kind of inherited that a year ago, and then getting the results back from the FDOT study. And it's come up into the Hart board meeting, what is the true cost of the streetcar? So I asked staff to actually go through not just the streetcar, but the entire Hart, and to really, if you will, a fine-tooth comb and look where the real expenses are. So this is really the true cost of operating the streetcar. And in previous years, we haven't actually did the true cost and went through each department. And I can confidently say that this is conservative numbers when you look at, when you compare us to the peers around the country.
I see. So you're passing on the real cost of what it takes to run the streetcar, which had not been considered in the past.
You're exactly right.
Thank you. Understand. Thank you.
Which is not, it's understandable and it's not unreasonable, along with what DOT isn't giving us. It's like a
Right.
$2.4 million hit.
Thank you.
Yes, go on, please.
Okay. So the next slide, this is the THS operating budget, and this was developed in collaboration with the City of Tampa staff. And here you'll see the FY '23 actuals, the FY '24 budget, and the FY 24 projections. And so for FY '25, we budget for total revenues, $1,761,395. And then total expenses is $1,761,395. And going through the expenses, $1 million is for the insurance. Attorney fees, $6,500. The accounting fees, $25,000. The general liability insurance, $6,500. As you see, nothing was budgeted for advertising fees, and same as for FY '24 too. Other expenses, $1,000, and the contribution to HART is $3,047,082, and this is the amount to make it as whole. And then you see here, the total expense, operating expenses is $4,086,082. So if you look at the total revenues of $1.7 million, and then you look at the total expenses, it's $4,086,082. It leaves you with a deficit to balance the budget of $2,324,687. And this is the additional revenue needed to balance the budget. So the next slide is just the combination of the two budgets. The THS budget to reflect the total revenues necessary to operate the streetcar. And we look here, the total revenues for FY '25, $3,502,245. And then operating expenses is $5,826,832. As you see here, you see that 2.3 deficit to balance the budget with the additional revenue needed to make the revenues $3,502,245. The next slide shows the proposed staff for FY 2025, and this is the same staffing of 32 positions as FY '24. The next slide is a schedule of capital expenditures that are included in HART budget for FY '25. And here you see a total capital expenditures for FY 2025 of $3,605,607. We here have vehicle maintenance, $847,200, and that is for a streetcar rebuild and parts. We have the infrastructure maintenance of $135,000, and that's for a streetcar tie replacement. Facilities and construction, $250,000, and that is for a south substation transformer replacement. And then lastly, we have technology at 2.3, and that is for the CAD AVL system, totaling $3,605,607. So the next steps after today, we will continue the budget discussions. So July 23rd, we will bring another presentation on the tentative FY '25 budget based on the board discussions today. And then then August 27th, we'll bring the budget to the board with anticipation of adopting the FY '25 HART streetcar operating budget and the THS corporate budget. And then in September, we have two public hearings, September 9th and September 23rd, and that's where the HART board members, or board of directors, adopts the FY '25 operating and capital budget, which includes the streetcar.
Questions?
Any questions?
Yes, I have questions. Thank
Please.
you so much, Chair, and thank you, Melanie, for the detailed presentation of the budget. And I think the detail is what makes me ask more questions about what you have presented today. I noticed that we're going into the year with a deficit. So are there recommendations or actions that you've uncovered that we could take, or things we need to consider to balance the budget from a revenue standpoint?
So if I may, I can answer that. So actually, today, we actually started off, President English and staff are going to meet with the CRAs to let them know what position we're in, and if, if there's possibly they could increase their contributions to help that out. I mean, we go into the board of directors for public outreach on possibly reinstating the fair. So there's a few things that, that we don't have a specific recommendation or know how we're gonna do that, but we are looking for outside contributions to help, either fund that $700,000 deficit and the new administrative costs, so.
Okay, thank you. When you present to the board, is this going to be presented to the larger board, the board of directors?
The THS budget is not presented to the.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, Gil?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, you just made a comment that confused me a little bit. The THS budget's not presented to the Hart Board, but it's embedded in the overall Hart budget, right?
Yes.
Okay. If I look at the capital and the operating expenses, unless I'm reading this wrong, I'm looking at a potential total revenue requirement or expense requirement of $9.4 million, counting operating expenses plus capital expenditures. Is that a true statement?
Are you adding the 3.6 and the 5?
Yes.
I don't.
Yeah, well, irrespective of what the math actually is, I mean, if 5.8 million for the tentative budget, and then 3.605 for the capital.
So here's the capital, the 3.6 million.
Right.
Okay, and then you said the operating?
Operating expenses, the 5, I can't read it now, 5.
The 5,826,000?
Correct, okay? But our total revenue sources for everything is going to be, what, 4.787, 4.8 million.
The total revenue is 3,502,245 for Hart and THS budget.
Okay, the Hart streetcar operating revenues on page 29 are what again?
If you're looking at the Hart and THS operating budget, the
Maybe that-
total
hold on,
revenues.
Hold on. You could have, no, yes, on page 29 of the presentation. What is the revenue then?
4.7.
What is the?
4.7.
Okay, so 3.502, if I look on page 33.
For Hart
Yes.
okay, sorry.
I know this is all.
Oh, total revenues, the Hart operating revenues, 4,787,932.
Okay, but this doesn't include capital.
No,
Okay, so what are the funding options for capital at this point? Or do we generally not segregate the two?
No, so the Hart Board does approve the capital plan, which we have 5337 specific funds for the streetcar.
Right.
So the Hart Board does approve the capital, the overall capital plan budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is that the funding for the capital, I don't see that in here anywhere.
I thought that our capital expenditures were minimal on this page.
Well, I don't believe Ms. Kirk, you want to clarify?
To the board of Mr. Drainville, good afternoon. And capital is normally minimal, but in the past years, because you have been rehabbing the streetcars, it's been significant.
Right.
So if you look at the $3 million, go to the budget for capital. Okay, we receive primarily, well, let me just go back to your first question. You're exactly right. The total budget that you will see included in the Hart budget is the Hart portion of the operating budget, the first slide that she showed you, and the capital budget for the streetcar, because as Mr. Drainville said, that's included in the Hart capital budget. So the funding for that is included in our budget. We can certainly show the funding in the next presentation if you'd like us to do that. But primarily, that comes from our 5337 formula allocation, which we have a dedicated source of revenue from FTA to operate the streetcar. However, for this year, I believe it's $916,000 or less than $1 million, which means that HART, in essence, is absorbing that extra $2.7 million, so to speak, for the capital. It's included in our plan, so that's really, in essence, a contribution from HART, because it's all coming from HART formula funds or discretionary funds or, capital funds.
Okay, so for presentation purposes today, we're not presenting a balanced THS budget.
We're presenting a balanced budget from the operating
perspective. Okay, so
only.
Capital is going to be covered by HART through the 5337 formula allocations.
And other funds. So if you want us to balance that budget for your July presentation, we can. We can show you where that money is going to come from, and the expenditure will be the $3.6 million if you want to see that in future presentations.
Okay, that'd probably be, helpful. I don't know, I don't know how hard it would be, but it would be helpful from my perspective to at least know that we're adding everything up. At least we know this part's balanced, and that'll make sure that the part remains balanced. But, so then what is the overall deficit that we're looking at for operating the streetcars for next year?
2.3.
HART is not looking at a deficit.
Well, I mean,
The deficit is on the THS side,
No, I understand that. No,
Okay.
I realize that. But what's the THS deficit then?
the $2.3 million.
2.3 million. How are we going to cover that?
That was my original question.
Yeah,
And that's the question, and with that, I'll sit down and let you have that discussion.
okay. So our options then are what? City?
Our option is the city of Tampa and CRAs.
So
It's an issue.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Melanie.
is it possible to come back with recommendations?
Oh, we will. We have to, well, we have
To look
to.
at the 2.3, this is a great presentation. I just feel like we're walking away with a 2.3 deficit and not aware of how we're going to cover that. We walk into 2025 with a budget and,
Well, the city has seen this preliminarily already, city staff. City council certainly hasn't yet and won't for a while. This afternoon is the first of the
Got it.
CRA Advisory Committee presentations that
Yes.
I'll be attending with the streetcar staff. So as this will develop, the city has to decide how or if there's a way to make up that deficit. That's the bottom line, because HART has just dropped $1.5 million hit on and added to DOT. It's a deficit we have to figure out how to make up. When I say drop, don't misunderstand me. I understand if HART were flush, you wouldn't be asking for the money, but you're not flush. The HART's budget is squeakier than the streetcar, so we all know what's going on. We just have to figure it out, and it's basically the city's responsibility.
Well, if I may, I guess my concern is if I was the city, I would say, wait a minute, last year we needed 700,000 from FDOT to make the nut. How come we now suddenly need 2.3 million for that number? And okay, so 700 takes it to what, 1.6?
DOT has made it clear that last year was the last year.
No, I understand that. No, I recognize
Okay.
that. Fully recognize that. 700 out of the mix leaves us at a deficit of 1.6-ish.
Right.
Okay? So how are we going to explain to them where that comes from? It just didn't just appear overnight.
So if I may, President English.
Sure.
So I did meet with the mayor and the mayor's staff back in early April, and she's seen this presentation, so she's well aware, the city is well aware that these administrative costs were going to show the true cost of running the streetcar. So that's been known for the last few months. When you look at, when you refer back to the tri-party agreement, Article 4, Section 2, it does state that if there's a shortfall, the basic service will be provided by the city. if the city doesn't approve or we can't come up with an agreement, then we would look at, what would the service look like? And that's kind of why I asked staff to be more proactive on, with the public outreach and reinstating the fares. So when it comes up to that fiscal year end, we have a plan to move forward. So if we don't have the funding, we're going to possibly reinstate fares, cut service back, because that 700,000 did also help put that fifth car, not just the free fares, but help put that fifth car in service. So.
Okay, but I guess my question then, the next question I would have from that, and again, this is not an indictment on you or your administration. What happened last year, the year before that? Ms. Kirk, any?
So I can say that a conversation came up at a HART board, and a question was asked by one of the HART board members, what is the true costs from, that HART is paying to run the streetcar? And there was some conversation, and I think out of that conversation, it was cost neutral, which it's not cost neutral when you look at. So I asked them, when I took over this position, I asked staff to go through the budget, making sure they were the true cost. And this is what we came out, when I seen how much time that staff was spending on running the streetcar, and we weren't getting compensated for that. That was a problem.
So we're fully allocating everything out of HART, everything that's THS out of HART to THS, so that, okay, all right. Yeah, it's a big number. Okay. Because I was expecting the deficit to be around the 700,000. I wasn't expecting it to be.
And not to make it any easier on the bottom dollar, but when you compare us to like Kansas City and our peers, their budgets are at they are double from what the TCO streetcar. So they're at 8.4. Even with this increase, we're way below our peers. So.
Well, no, and I believe the numbers, but I think that it's important to recognize that these are the efficiencies that are being brought to bear by HART to being able to at least identify and allocate all the true costs that it takes to run the system.
Absolutely.
And I applaud the HART administration for doing that. I just wasn't expecting that kind of a number, that's all. But it's good that we know what it is, moving forward with it. All right, thank you.
Yes, Melanie?
Just a comment that I noticed that there are the same number of employees running HART, the THS, as there were the previous year. And so the level of efficiency that is indicated in this presentation, and then I noticed that there are a few more dollars added for employee costs, but it tells me that employees are probably going to work a little bit more in order to get the services cared for in the manner that has been depicted in this deck. And so, to tighten the belt and just not add more employees when you're trying to increase the services is profound. So I just wanted, I picked that up and saw that in the deck, that you didn't add more people and so forth, and you're doing this in an efficient manner. So thank you, and thank you, Melanie, for calling that out. I saw it, but I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that I noticed that you guys are being as efficient as possible with your employees and staff.
Plus the insurance issue.
I beg your pardon?
Plus the insurance issue. That's the insurance.
Yeah.
CSX insurance. That's
Well,
additional 400.
There's a possibility it could be significantly less, but we'll get to that. We're working on that.
Well, in the budget, it's in there, which is a point that needs to be made, that's money that wasn't in the budget last year, that they've got in there this year. Whether it stays, whether they spend it or not, it's a separate issue. But
Right.
you look, you compare the two.
Right.
Of the 1.76 million, 400,000 is the insurance increase. Okay.
Right. Any other comments? Okay. There are some other things that we may have to consider, including fares. It's an unpleasant thought, but we took it to zero because DOT asked us to do that and gave us the money to support it. They have withdrawn that funding, and so $2 fare would cover that deficit.
Yeah, that's,
Nobody wants to do it, but we'll just have to continue to talk about it and see. So if there are no other questions, thank you very much for the presentation, and we will, I'm sure, be talking about it again soon. Let's move to Marketing Services Report. Mr. Wazinski.
Frank Wazinski, Manager of Marketing and Communications for Hart. Good afternoon, Board and CEO Drainville. It's great to follow that discussion to provide the May 2024 marketing report. For the month of May, we provided collateral and graphic support for Streetcar Live. We had service changes that also took place in which we updated the kiosks and all the different stations and everything. In terms of coverage, media coverage, the Streetcar was featured in a nationally syndicated TV show called Joseph Roseno's Stepping Out. It follows Joseph as he travels to picturesque and ethnically rich destinations around the world. And the Streetcar was featured in your actual digital packets. I think there's a link to the clip in which he's on the Streetcar and talking about the Streetcar and everything. So that was a great opportunity for the Streetcar. As I mentioned, Streetcar Live, the final Streetcar Live took place on May 24th with What About Mama performing from 6 to 8. The season, it runs from September to May due to how hot it gets in the summertime. And so we'll be picking back up in September. We're already working with Gasville Music Festival to line up the next season already for that. So that's great. We promoted Streetcar service to a number of events, some concerts, Bad Bunny, Kane Brown. There was also Tampa River Fest that took place in May, and Soph Week at the convention center that we promoted, taking the Streetcar to that service. As far as media coverage, we received some coverage regarding our ridership being on track and record ridership expected again for the year. Again, about Streetcar Live, the Streetcar extension had some coverage during the month, and that was pretty much it. And in terms of advertising, Mr. Smoker had reached out that Publix was going to be pulling back from Publix Station. They had been advertising with us. They were our first station sponsor, I believe 3 or 4 years ago. And so they're going to actually, as soon as July 27th, it's going to be reverting back to Port Tampa Bay Station currently. Vector Media, who handles our advertising program, is already in discussions with Publix about maybe possibly sponsoring another station. They have the Greenwise Publix that's going to be changing back to a regular Publix around Amalie Arena Station. So there might be an opportunity there. And that station actually would bring in more revenue than the current station that they're at. But Vector Media is on it. We're trying to bring in more station sponsorships to help grow that revenue and reduce that number that we're talking about for FY25. So hopefully I'll have some great news to report back there. One thing I did want to bring up, as far as new business, we welcomed Amaranth Bank doing a full wrap on the Streetcar in May, and then also McDonald's was on board with the full wrap that they had, as well as doing interior cards and step panels. And that actually led to a media segment from the local McDonald's that they were doing, promoting their new slushies or something. But they came and got some B-roll of the Streetcar and involved that in their promotion. I think that's going to be airing sometime next week. So I'll share that in the next month's clips as well.
Great. Any questions? Yes, Gil.
sorry. With the buses, we had a quote-unquote safety issue regarding the wraps over the windows. Do we have those type of issues with the streetcars? Because I know when you're in the streetcar, it can be difficult to see out. I mean, you can't see in, but seeing out is also an issue sometimes, depending upon the light on the other side.
We do not have the same issue that they have. A few years ago, we demanded that they put reflectorized striping on the side of the cars because certain wraps, if they're very dark, the streetcar will disappear when it's crossing a crossing. So the reflectors have helped that.
But we don't have a problem with it being over the windows.
No.
Okay, all right.
And to that point, I think part of the reason with that as well is the windows open on the Streetcar as well, and so the wraps don't necessarily go over the window. So I think that definitely helps with that. And to Brian's point, we're currently working with Growth Financial as possibly being an advertiser, and they want to do a special Streetcar with attachments on the side of it and things like that. And Brian, being a safety concern, Brian kind of shut that down. So with our advertisers, we definitely want to work within the space that we have available that's safe and, secure for everybody.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, absolutely. Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you, Frank.
All right, thank you.
Let's move to Streetcar System Report. Mr. Allen?
Good afternoon, President English, members of the board, Mr. Drainville. For May was a good month operationally for the streetcar. Out of 4,440 trips that were scheduled, we had 34 reported missed trips. Of those, 31.75 were caused by mechanical issues. The remaining few were because of a shortage of operators. There were 19 reported late departures from the EOL, giving us an on-time performance of 99.57. There were no accidents or incidents recorded in May. And we provided 5 hours of additional service with 2 special or private charters. Ridership was 100,492 compared to 97,177 from the year before. This is significant. This is the first fiscal year where every month has been in the above 100,000 each month. And of those 146 were ADA boardings with no issues. And finally, from a staffing perspective, today we had a service attendant start filling that position, which has been open since November, and we currently have 1 open operator position. And that concludes my report. Is there any questions?
Sounds like a good one. Thank you very much. That brings us to legal and legislative. Mr. Smoker, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, President English. I have nothing to report.
Thank you so much. That leads us to my report, and I do have some things to do. The first is that we did indeed have to pay an additional $268,000 for the CSX insurance. We had thought it was going to be $450,000, and we were very disappointed, but the city paid it. That being said, Mr. Smoker and I have been concerned about that, and we have done some research and about other potential insurance agent providers. And I would like to introduce them to you today. And if you're reasonably comfortable with that, my next step will be to introduce them to the city. I've asked Vic for a meeting of all the appropriate people because, in fact, the city pays those bills. So with that, I would like to invite Frank Delagrana and Bill Talby, BKS Partners, to come forward and introduce themselves, please.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Delagrana. I'm a commercial risk advisor with the Baldwin Group. We just went through a rebranding, so the information you'll see there says BKS Partners, but as of last week, we're now the Baldwin Group. So our marketing material hasn't caught up to reflect that, but will shortly. But a little background on myself. I am a 4th-generation Tampa native, specifically here in Ybor City. Both parts of my family are from Ybor City. This town means a lot to me. I got into the insurance business to help Tampa businesses navigate insurance, the insurance world, which is a lot of a headache to most people and is very difficult to understand. So at this point, I've done a lot of work here in Ybor City, have a lot of connections in the city, and really look forward to working with the Tampa Historic Streetcar and trying to work out this very difficult headache you're dealing with CSX that seems to be very much a big sore in the side as far as the budget goes. That $1 million premium is, or more than $1 million premium, is obviously putting a lot of strain on the historic streetcar, and myself and Mr. Talby are willing to do whatever we need to try to help you navigate that, because it does seem a bit unfair what you guys are dealing with CSX, and we'll do what we can and use the connections that we have in the city and the state to try to help you guys the best we can. Bill?
Hi, I'm Bill Talby. I'm a managing partner at the Baldwin Group. Actually, was born here in Tampa and started my career in insurance here in 1983. So I've been doing this a while and have a lot of experience dealing with all kinds of entities, whether it's railroad or aviation authority or Department of Defense. Have a lot of history doing that. And prior to joining the Baldwin Group, I was a CEO of Likes Brothers Insurance, where I've spent the majority of my career. So I look forward to the dialogue and conversation today.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions? Yes, please.
A couple of comments. Thank you very much. I appreciate someone that is multi-generational from Ybor City. I think that's a nice little bonus. You know, your family, you understand this community. The streetcar, going back to the original streetcar, you know, up until 1946, you know, we lost that. That's a long story I won't get into. But we have this streetcar now, and before I got elected for years, it was always CSX and the insurance, CSX and the insurance. And you see, as you've mentioned, you know, premiums have gone up.
Yep.
I looked at, you know, we just heard about the May report, no accidents. And that's not just May. I mean, that's a very common thing. It's a very safe system. Things have happened, but as you use the word unfair, as we tried to navigate this, we have several issues. The insurance has gone up. FDOT has said, you know, they're not going to give that, you know, we're not going to get that funding to keep the fares free. The one positive I see of it, and I'll tell you right now, I'm very cheap. When it comes to, you know, I don't like to pay for parking. I like to look for the free space. If I can walk, you know, I mean, I can, you know, I take it, you know, deeply. But we talked about ridership. And for the last several months now, it's been over 100,000 people a month, right? So I think we're in a better position, I want to say a good position, because we didn't see this kind of ridership before the fares were eliminated. So that spurred and sparked interest, on top of all the growth that we see along the streetcar track in the last several years, of people using the streetcar. People, since it had been free of fares, local Tampa people that had never used a streetcar would use the streetcar. Free attracts more people. But as was mentioned, you know, we may have to consider, not that we're doing it or not doing it, we may have to consider going back to some kind of a fare. I heard $2 was mentioned. I don't know if that's $2 each way or if it's $2 round trip. I know it wasn't that cheap when the fares were in place. But look at the numbers. You know, people have gotten used to using the streetcar. I think people would, if they're going to use the streetcar, because it's not the quickest service, but I think it's a wonderful, scenic, historical, so many positive things. I think if we go back to fares and we keep them reasonable, we can navigate this budget deficit at a reasonable price. If it's $1 each way or $2 each way or $3 round trip, that's something I'm willing to pay. And again, I parked in the city garage a couple blocks away, and I'm thinking, you know, $1 for the first hour, then $2, and I'm already, can I afford it? Yes, but it's just like, that's $5, $6, that's 2 coffees, whatever. But I think we've allowed the general public and the community to see, hey, the streetcar works, because the streetcar is full. It wasn't always like that. And I have photographic proof of me using the streetcar over the years. But, you know, to wrap up, if we have to go back to the fares, something, you know, to make up that gap, with your services, and I know you're going to meet with the city after here, if we can get a better insurance premium, because our safety record, I think, speaks for itself. I know that there's issues, you know, once the streetcar approaches the CSX track, but we have, you know, the arms that go down in certain areas, I believe, or we have the flashing lights that warn people. I just hope that we can get a better rate. I know this is not housing insurance, which, you know, residential and in commercial is crazy in the state. Perhaps we can, you know, work out something better, so I'm very hopeful.
And Guido, me and David and Michael have spoken a few times now. We've spoken about insurance in general. And right now, I'd love to sit here and tell you that, yeah, with us, you're definitely going to get a better rate, but that's just not the case. Insurance, the way insurance works, premiums, especially with liability, are going up. Property's been pretty stagnant or somewhat flat, but we've seen liability go up. The issue we see here isn't so much just going and getting you better premiums, but we need to actually sit down and negotiate with CSX. We need to talk about all the things that you're telling us about ridership going up, instances not occurring, your safety track record, something to lean on. But we need to get that limit lowered. We need to pull our statistics. We need to reach out to our contacts within our company because we are a national company. And we really need to sit down and get that limit lowered. And we need to bring facts, and we need to basically present this up in Jacksonville to CSX to get them to lower that limit, because insurance premiums right now, especially with liability, we're not going to see them go down. And railroad liability is there's not a lot of carriers that are involved in it. So our selection is not big at all. So we really have to go back and really get creative here to help you guys out, because right now, one, we can comb the entire market as far as railroad liability goes. We can reach out to every carrier that writes it. Doesn't mean, based off your track record, no occurring losses. If we have to buy $50 million worth of insurance, the price is what it is. Claims will make it worse, but right now, with no claims, still going to be very expensive. So there's no silver bullet to this problem you guys are having. It's really going to the table with information to back up what we're claiming and making CSX be a bit more reasonable with the requirements.
Yeah, and we should try, we should negotiate because we have a good safety record. I've been with my auto insurance carrier since 2000. Knock on wood, I'm a good driver, and I actually got rewarded for it, for being a safe, finally, after 20-something years.
Right.
We have a good reputation. People use it. It's a popular service. We've diligently paid that premium as expensive as it has been. But again, I know you said there's no magic bullet. You can't say yes or no. You can't guarantee anything, but we can at least try. Considering, the Streetcar is now decades old, 20 plus years of service, of good service. And I think that should account for the fact that, it's unreasonable because it's just, we're rolling it to the taxpayers. We're putting it on the backs of the CRAs or the city or the general fund, because there's going to be the ask. We're going into budget season now. And I didn't say a word when the budget presentation was being presented, because I'm thinking to myself, where do we get the money from? You got to talk to the CRA CACs, then we act as the CRA board. The benefit we have is Ybor City's got money, the Channel CRA has money, Downtown CRA has money. They're some of the wealthiest ones, so the opportunity is there. But at the same time, in the long term, insurance could continue going up. We don't know what we're going to do with the fares. We want to be best prepared, and I'm glad you're here, and we have your services, and hopefully something very positive comes out of this.
Well, let me add something. What we're not comfortable with is why CSX is dictating the limit that they're dictating. We need to have some skin in the game, some say in this. And what are your peers around the country being required to carry, and why 50? Why not 100? Why not 10? And really, it's up to this board to really determine, based upon what's presented to you, what the right amount is. And we're not saying that 50 million is not correct, but historically, we don't have claims, okay? And the answer to the question is, how much insurance do I carry? Well, tell me how much the claim was, and I'll tell you how much insurance you should have had. So it's a slippery slope, but given the makeup of THS, quite frankly, we don't see where $50 million is warranted. And we don't want to be thrown in a category with every other CSX, partner, just because this is what they mandate. We want to sit across the table from them, show them the facts, talk to them about it. Now, by the way, should they negotiate with insurance brokers? No. But what we need to do is we need to bring something back to y'all that says, okay, here's their thinking, okay? And then how do we counter that? How do we negotiate with them going forward? But as Frank said, by the way, if all things being equal and we have to buy $50 million going forward, that number is going up by 10 to 14% minimum, okay? It's just the world of insurance. It has nothing to do with you, okay? It's just the capacity. It's the reinsurance market. So we think it's our responsibility, if we were ever so fortunate to represent you, to do this on an annual basis, to have these discussions, okay, with your partners and with the market, and do an analysis and really understand what the cost per rider is for the insurance so that we can properly budget going forward. And that may be being done now. I'm not familiar enough with what was done prior. That's just what we think our responsibility would be.
Gil?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm a little confused. How long have you guys been working on this project?
We've only spoken with Michael and David twice. One was an introductory meeting, and then once we had a little bit more information, but we haven't been working on it.
All right, well, I have another question. Just a procedural matter, did we have an agreement with the prior broker? When did the board vote?
We have what amounts to a contract.
Okay, so we have to vote on the new contract? or-
We sure will.
Okay, so the purpose of today, well, all right.
The purpose of today is for you all to get a feeling for these folks.
Okay.
I'm going to ask them to meet with Brian and so that they can come back and meet Scott and the senior staff and meet with them. I'm going to take them to meet the city. If everybody's comfortable, I'm going to ask them for a proposal to come back next month.
Perfect. Okay, well, so you may have already answered my other question, but what do you feel as contributing factors for the premium calculation? You stated the minimum requirement. Didn't we just get done, that being a relative term in the last several years, renegotiating with CSX on what the limit?
Well, it was originally 100.
Yeah.
It went down to 75 some years later, and then it went down to 50, and that's where it's been for a while.
Okay.
So what these gentlemen are saying is they need to do some work on that.
Yeah, you worked hard to get it down to 50. I remember because this was the early days of.
Yeah, but
Okay,
this may be a different game.
yeah, okay. So beyond that, anything else that we can do to mitigate this or?
Well, we think, our gut feeling based off what CSX has done, anybody that's partnered with them or that has a cart or a business that involves rail cart that crosses their tracks, their number on the contract has been 100. Because of, the streetcar system here being smaller, not being as lengthy, maybe they they gave you guys a break going down to 75 or 50, but we believe that's just based off contracts. That's not based off any factual information. And because this is such a strain and such a large part of the budget, we need to go back and get them to have a dose of reality, because it doesn't quite make sense. We don't know where they're getting that number, what they're basing it off of, if it's off of ridership or what it's off of. We don't know where they're pulling this $50 million limit out of. So we want some transparency here. We don't want, I haven't seen anything in writing from CSX stating that, we're lowering the limit to 50 million and this is why. I've gotten this information from Michael and David, and still needs a lot more analysis, but we want to be transparent. We want to know why they're asking this. And I think if we sit down with the right information, put it in front of them, we could get them to come down and be a little bit more realistic as far as what should be required.
Okay, so then what has been by me, the Baldwin Group, the professional experience with CSX?
As far as CSX goes, we have some, with that rail line specifically, we haven't dealt with CSX. I haven't personally, I can't speak for Bill, but we do have some other clients out of state that do deal with other large rail businesses, such as CSX or freight businesses like that, and we found a way to navigate them. The premiums aren't quite as high as we've seen with this. So, we know CSX is a very large company, but there's companies that we've dealt with that are equally as big, and we don't know, again, I don't have enough information to know why or how they're getting this number that they're requiring.
Okay.
It's just more about transparency on their part. and
I'll be
us
looking forward
giving you
to
that.
your analysis of what maybe we could do and why. Okay, cool, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
Good.
I'll shut up.
Any other questions? If not, gentlemen, thank you very much. Before you leave, please get with Lena and Brian, and get contacts together so you can come back and meet with these folks.
Very good.
And we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for coming today. And now we come to the Chief Executive Officer's report. Mr. Drainville, you're recognized.
Thank you, President English, and good morning and good afternoon again, board members. So I'll start off with a legislative update. I continue building and developing relationships with state and federal legislative delegation. As such, I recently spoke with Senator Burgess. I met with Senator Collins to secure their
Speak into the
support.
microphone.
To secure their support for a sustainable funding source for HART, either to match federal dollars or for ongoing operational funds. At the federal level, I spoke with Congresswoman Katz's office requesting her support for the grant applications. And also the ATU Local 1593 President Leticia Jones traveled to DC the week of June 9th to advocate for additional funding, and we applaud her for advocating for HART. I would like to introduce Sean McCarthy. Sean, would you please stand up? I previously reported that Hart was recruiting for the position of Chief Operating Officer, and today I share with you great news that I'd like to introduce you to Sean. He has more than 30 years' experience in transit. Sean's background includes serving as the former Deputy General Manager and Chief Operating Officer of the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, where he led a team of 6,000 employees responsible for delivering safe transit service to 1.4 million daily riders. We trust that Sean's broad expertise in transportation operations will be instrumental in driving Hart forward. And the last thing is the CRA meetings. We did speak a little about that earlier. So each year, we schedule presentations to EBOR, the Channel District, and downtown CRAs, or CACs, to share with them the annual streetcar report, a year in review. At your seats, you'll find copies of that report. The purpose of these meetings is to provide an update on the streetcar operations performance, ridership, financial snapshot for the past and upcoming fiscal years, as well as to secure CAC ongoing financial support for the streetcar system. The meetings are as scheduled. EBOR CAC today at 4, President English and staff will attend. On August 6th will be the downtown CAC. August 7th will be the Channel District. All THS board members are invited to attend the meetings. And that concludes my report.
Will the COA include this, THS?
No.
No?
Is this the COA for the system?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'm just curious. Okay.
Done? Any other business to come before us? If not, may I have a motion for adjournment? It's been an interesting meeting, and thank you for coming, and thank you all for participating, and we will be seeing everybody soon.
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big bucks.